And so RStudio should look like this. The main focus here will be the console window. Those of you that have opened RStudio and do have an extra window, the console window will be in this section of the screen here. So the console is your window to R. It's, as I said, RStudio opens an R session within it, and so this is your R session here. So you can code directly in the console, and I invite you to try that now. We can do basic calculations, choose whatever takes your fancy, and you can execute your code by pressing enter. There's a better way to code, I think, in many cases. So the editor window, and that's this window here, which some of you might have already seen. If you don't see the editor, I'm gonna show you how to do it this way. There are other ways to view it, but if you can go to the toolbar at the top of the screen and click View and Panes, and then Show All Panes. You can do the same calculations you did in the editor window from the console, but to execute your lines of code from the console, you'll have to press Control and Enter rather than just Enter. So the editor is just like any other text editor. You can copy and paste text. You can save that text. It's more forgiving than the console, as you might find if you try to use the console and don't complete a line. It won't be very amenable to your edits, whereas the editor you can edit to your heart's content. There's R syntax highlighting in both the editor and the console, so as you might have, well, you may not have noticed, or you may have noticed when you did the ran through the install instructions, you'll get an autocomplete coming up when you're typing instructions. I highly recommend using autocomplete, even if it's a short piece of code that you're typing or short name, just because R is case sensitive, and probably the biggest error that I make, and probably everyone makes, is that you don't quite type a name correctly, or you include uppercase when you want actually lowercase. So yes, I'd always recommend using the autocomplete, pressing enter when you get the option. As I said before, when you're using the editor, you'll press Control and Enter to execute the codes. The cursor can be on any part of that line to execute that line. It doesn't have to be at the end. So yes, that's one thing to bear in mind. Another thing I'm going to ask you to do is to go to Tools on the toolbar menu and Global Options, and I'd like you to configure the general options so that you never restore R data into the workspace at the startup, and you never save R data on exit. If any of you fancy having a darker screen like Azair has here, you can change that with appearance. I'll just come over and show. So some of these themes here are dark, and it just helps. I think it helps my eyes to have a dark theme. You also can change the font size, and you can zoom a little bit if you need to. I first recommend perhaps, so the fonts, changing the font size will change the font in the editor and the console, whereas zooming will change the size of the layout around the editor and console. R packages can be seen as very similar to apps for your phone. So they extend the capabilities of the out-of-the-box R, which is often referred to as base R. They extend it with extra functions, extra data sets, and documentation. Whereas with your phone, you'd download the app and then you'd open the app, and so the download happens just once, But you have to open the app every single time you turn on your phone. With R, you download the package with install packages, the command you hopefully used with the tidyverse. That happens just once, or it may happen every 6 months when you update R. You might have to update all your packages. And then every new session of R, you'll have to open the package. So that's done with a library call, which we'll cover now, actually. So just type in this command. It can be into either the editor or the console. In this case, I might do it in the console because it's a one-off command. So if you start typing install.packages, so as Azair might demonstrate this, you'll get the autocomplete. I'd recommend just pressing enter. Next, you're going to need to use inverted commas. They can be the American style double inverted commas. I tend to use that style actually, or the single inverted commas. Azair, you can see, uses the single. Yes, it's not like SQL, if any of you are familiar with SQL. They do different things. In R, they're interchangeable, or, well, yes. If you type the name of the package we want here, which is the Gapminder package, all lowercase, please. Call the library with library Gapminder. Packages come from the CRAN repository. I'll just briefly mention this. This is not all that important for you right now, but there are over 12,000 packages available on CRAN. They're free. They're all peer-reviewed. They aren't put on CRAN until they're tested by other members of the R community. Talk a little about the tidyverse. So the tidyverse collects some of what are now probably the most popular packages all into one package. So you only ever have to load the tidyverse to get, for instance, ggplot or dplyr, which we'll be using in a second. These packages in the tidyverse were all developed with the same underlying principles. So they consist of many functions that do one job, and they do it well. They have a consistent structure, so if you learn how to use one tool, then you learn how to use them all, so to speak. And so you combine these tools to solve more complex problems, and that's what we're going to be looking at, especially in the dplyr wrangling session. As I said, ggplot, dplyr, and readr, which allows you to import data, they're all bundled in the tidyverse package, and we load this package by running this command, library tidyverse. I'd write this command, library tidyverse, in your editor window at the top. It's, I think, quite normal to list your libraries at the start of your script so that other people who might look at your script know what libraries are needed up front. It's quite normal to have a message appear when you're loading the tidyverse library. It just notes the conflicts. It's essentially overwriting some of the functions in the base package with updated tidyverse version. So it's using the same name and just replacing the function, and that's essentially what a conflict is. That's the end of this session. I hope everyone's got R working and the tidyverse installed, and we'll move on